So let's just real quick, because I would love to just hear your opinion on it. And John and I have talked about this a few times already on the show, and we're both just kind of like, just in general, like understand budget constraints from CrossFit caused a lot of misses in the broadcast, and it just sort of like is what it is from a business standpoint. We understand where they're coming from, but we would just love to see more better coverage of masters and also of the adaptive division. So you've been on both sides of the coin. You've been a competitor. You were also a part of the broadcast. Like, just how are you feeling after everything that happened this year?
I'll say this. So we had our first initial production talks, and when I heard them say, and Tom and Jason will be covering the adaptive final, I was like, the final, that's it? Like last year, I literally did 6 of the 8 tests, and this year it's only 1. And so that was already a red flag of what does that mean for the rest of the week? And especially since we moved adaptive and age group early, you'd think that you'd have the resources and availability to provide a broadcast. And I thought maybe like when they moved that forward, I'm like, oh, sick. We'll be able to show every single adaptive test this week. That's really cool. That's really awesome. It's definitely taken a bit back. It's like you said, I've been on both sides of it, and I've also been on both sides of the debate of all of it, right? Like why have we done it and why haven't we done it? I'm not somebody that wants to take sides on this, but I think this year was definitely eye-opening between moving from having a semifinal 4 or 5 of the E divisions last year to then reverting back to just an open this year. Though they were 3 great tests, 4 tests, I guess, right? With the AB, to have been just crown fittest on earth through 3 workouts didn't feel like enough, right? There's a lot of elements that probably weren't tested yet, and a lot of ability to adapt to a surrounding or an environment that wasn't really executed that we didn't get to see. I won't lie. Like, I'm envious watching Acree and all the big names out there on the field in Madison. Like, yeah, it'd be fantastic at this point in my career. Like, I didn't join CrossFit for that, right? And I'll make that very clear. But like, when you see it as a reality now, like, it's hard to not want it, right?
Yeah.
So I was definitely surprised by only covering the adaptive and age group final for both divisions, right? I mean, it's tough for all those age group athletes who are putting in the same amount of effort to be where they are. And you're watching from an ant farm, basically, as they're doing Helen, and you just see a little blip in your corner of them like running away. And then like, that's it. It's like, okay. So yeah, it was a bummer. I won't lie. It's a bummer. It was tough to see that our athletes that are really, I think the intent to provide inclusion of the adaptive divisions has been there. And I think it still is there. It was just surprising that, again, I don't know why the decision was made. I don't know the pragmatics behind the call on whether it was budget, whether it was staff, whether it was workload, whether it was the ESPN broadcast that wasn't allowing any other sort of broadcast to happen effectively, right? I don't know what it was that they made a decision they did. So I can't really like complain about it too much without really having an answer. So I'd kind of like to have an answer, right? I'm not somebody that's going to get mad at you for it. It's like, I just want to know. And then I want to know what to expect moving forward, right? We're in a situation right now where I think there's a bit like, and John, you did a great job with your post a few days ago, right? Your little 7-minute clips. And I appreciate listening. And I listened again this morning to make sure I was refreshed. But the best sort of education that we can provide is making it viable, right? And if we want to have more adaptive athletes involved, we need to have it shown more often. And that you nailed it on the head with that. And I think by showing their hand and barely providing a broadcast, like, it challenges how committed they are to that idea. Again, I don't know the budget. I don't know the pragmatics by even having an adaptive leaderboard in the open, right? How much more work that takes to get that all set up. I'm not a coder. I'm not anything of the finances on that side. I don't know, but there are a lot of athletes working really hard because they have now found a new passion where they saw somebody and they said, holy cow, I only have one arm too. I didn't know I could do this. Or, oh my gosh, I'm in a wheelchair. I want to go to a CrossFit gym. I want to see if I can do what he's doing or she's doing. Right. And there's been a lot of great grassroots movement. I think there's been a lot more education, at least from what I've seen too. There's been a better broad spectrum of education being put out there. Maybe not necessarily through CrossFit, but the Adaptive Training Academy,
Yep.
Wheelwad's doing a great job of just getting more people to open their doors to adaptive athletes. And so we just got to find a way to highlight that better. I know that last year there was an issue with participation in the semifinal that was provided. And so I can understand from CrossFit's realm that if you're not going to do it and we're going to put all this money into offering it, we're just not going to offer it. So I get it. I understand it. And there's probably some issues this year with them having made huge HQ changes a few months before the games, right? Firing a lot of and removing basically the DEI program. A lot of the adaptive staff was let go. There's probably a lot that just says like, with that happening, it's like, let's not try and tie any pretty bows on a rough situation right now. Like, let's reset for 2024. I could see that, right? On the promising side, with having Kevin Ogar and Chris Stoutenberg, who have had numerous, I mean, they basically have started, Chris Stoutenberg started Wheelwad, right? I mean, they've got the expertise and knowledge that I think is exciting for what's to come. I think if they can get on a really good communicative foot with CrossFit about how things should be run and how things should be handled and how especially the adaptive classifications should go. I know that's always been a hot topic. I think then we're in a situation that we're going to see this grow in a way that makes sense for CrossFit too. I went into the games thinking that the Tuesday to Thursday vibe was like a guinea pig run to say like, hey, if this works for these 3 divisions, can we do it for all 8 next year?
Yeah.
And when they didn't get much coverage, I was like, were they just trying to get them out of the way? Like, I don't know. So, or maybe it was a trial run and we're going to learn more. So it's a rocky situation. I get it, but I can't stress enough that the only way that we're going to help out is by continuing to participate.
Yeah.
I've heard from too many athletes though, that like we're upset with movement standards in the open workouts or upset with the, just the lack of opportunity. It's like, well, we have to keep showing up if we want to give them data to work with. We gotta do the open workout that has the 70-pound dumbbell thruster that you weren't ready for. We got to do that and put in your score as it was and say, oh, hey, look at nobody in the standing upper division was able to move that dumbbell. Like, we made a bad decision there. Let's revert and retry again next year. And then everyone's happy. But if we don't give them that data and the raw evidence to say that this didn't work out, how are they ever going to know? Right. So there's a lot of just like, we got to keep trudging forward. We got to keep moving forward. And maybe it's more, I think very much about what Brent has done, Fikowski, with the athletes union that they kind of created, the athlete advisory group, right? And how they've done a lot about the whole cutting the ropes at semifinals last year, that debacle, and kind of making communications happen between the athletes and the higher ups. And maybe we need to do something like that for the adaptive divisions. And it's just like, can you give us an idea of what your intent is? What is your plan for 24 and moving forward? We don't know where we're going next year. Obviously, we know it's not Madison, right? Is this going to be a more accessible city for us? Who knows? Is it going to be more a lesser accessible? Like, what's going to happen for adaptive CrossFit? I got to come back at it, John. Like, I loved your idea too of maybe it's that we just take it off their hands, right? Well, and then we move it to, and the first thing that comes to my mind every time, Wadapalooza. Like, I mean, there is such a crowd there. It is an absolute party. Everybody stays to watch. Like, I think a few years we've had I've competed immediately following the elite individuals, and like everyone stays, nobody leaves. They keep watching, right? And so if you want to crown your fittest on earth, maybe it's going to like a sanctional event like that in some capacity where it's proven to have worked, right? We've seen the Wadapalooza do great stuff in incorporating adaptive athletes. Or maybe it's giving it full rights to Wheelwad, and Wheelwad runs their Wheelwad CrossFit Games instead. And that's the true fittest on earth, right? The branding goes to them. It's hard to say, but there are definitely a lot of people out there that have the resources and have the opportunities that I think we just need to have CrossFit knock on their door and be like, help us out. Help us know where we want to go with this and help us where we should go with this. So yeah, it's interesting. I was coming back all around. It was definitely a surprise to only see what coverage was there, and for both Don and Dave to talk about it. And Blake said, like, yeah, we messed up here. Like, we shot ourselves in the foot on this one. Like, we knew we were going to get some heat from this, and we knew that it wasn't going to go very well, but like we had to make the decision that we did. And so I just got to hope that there was pragmatics that if we're given the chance to hear about the rationale, like I think it would be appreciated to know rather than just like, no, we didn't want to, or no, we just didn't. Like that's not very fun for anybody.